The auditorium of Lincoln Middle School buzzed with proud parents and excited students. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the rows of folding chairs. My son Marcus sat in the front row, his certificate for Regional Science Fair champion clutched in his 12-year-old hands. I watched from the third row, my heart swelling with pride. He'd spent 6 months on his renewable energy project, working late nights in our garage, refusing to give up even when experiments failed. I remembered finding him asleep at his workbench more than once, his notebook still open beside him. The other award recipients sat alongside Marcus, each representing months of dedication and hard work. The principal had already announced 3 awards, and the audience applauded warmly for each student. My sister Jennifer slid into the seat next to me, fashionably late as always. She barely glanced at the stage where the principal was announcing awards. Her perfume was overwhelming in the small space, and she made no effort to quiet her entrance despite the ceremony being in progress. "Traffic was terrible," she whispered, not bothering to apologize. I nodded, keeping my eyes on Marcus. His name was called. He walked to the stage slightly nervous and accepted his trophy. The principal began explaining his innovative solar panel design that had impressed the judges. That's when Jennifer stood up. She walked straight down the aisle, heels clicking on the wooden floor. Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed the microphone from the principal's hand. "Let's be real here," Jennifer's voice boomed through the speakers. "He only won because his competition was weak this year." The auditorium went silent. Every head turned. Marcus froze on stage, his face crumpling. Jennifer continued, oblivious or uncaring. "I mean, a solar panel project? That's been done 1,000 times. Nothing original about it." I felt my hands grip the armrest, but I kept my expression neutral. My parents, sitting 2 rows ahead, turned around. Dad was chuckling. Mom wore that familiar smirk. "She's just being honest," Mom said loudly enough for others to hear. "Someone needs to keep these kids grounded." Dad nodded. "Can't let them get big heads over participation trophy stuff." The principal gently retrieved the microphone, but the damage was done. Marcus's eyes found mine, brimming with tears. I gave him a small smile and a nod. He stumbled off the stage as the next award was announced. After the ceremony, Jennifer cornered me in the parking lot. "Don't give me that look, Sarah," she said, adjusting her designer purse. "I did Marcus a favor. The real world doesn't give out trophies for mediocre work." "His project was selected from 200 entries," I said quietly. "Whatever." She waved dismissively. "Hey, did you think about my proposal? The investment I mentioned last month?" 3 weeks earlier, Jennifer had pitched her new startup, a boutique marketing agency targeting tech companies. She needed $50,000 to secure office space and hire her first employees. She'd presented spreadsheets, growth projections, the works. "I'm still considering it," I said. "Well, don't take forever. I have other investors interested." She clicked her car remote. "And maybe next time, enter Marcus in competitions with actual standards." I watched her drive away, then went to find my son. Marcus sat on a bench near the playground, his trophy lying beside him. "Hey, champ," I said, sitting down. "She's right, isn't she?" His voice cracked. "My project wasn't that good." "Your project was brilliant." The judges' panel included 3 university professors and 2 engineers. "They chose you." "But Aunt Jennifer said." "Aunt Jennifer doesn't know what she's talking about." I put my arm around him. "And you know what? You don't need her approval, or anyone else's. You worked hard, you created something innovative, and you earned this." He leaned against me and we sat there until the parking lot emptied. That night, after Marcus went to bed, I opened my laptop. I pulled up the investment agreement Jennifer had sent, $50,000 for a 15% stake in her company. I'd been planning to sign it, to help my sister despite our complicated relationship. I thought about Marcus's face on that stage. About my parents' laughter. About Jennifer's complete lack of remorse. I opened my email and began typing. "Jennifer, after careful consideration, I've decided not to move forward with the investment in your startup. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sarah." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The next morning started normally. I made breakfast, got Marcus ready for school, and checked my emails. There was nothing from Jennifer. No angry response, no questions. Radio silence. At 9 o'clock my doorbell rang. A courier stood there with a large manila envelope. Sarah Mitchell? That's me. Sign here, please. I signed and took the envelope. It was heavy, official looking. I closed the door and opened it at my kitchen table. Inside were legal documents, company ownership papers. I started reading, confused at first. Then I saw it. Jennifer's startup, the one she'd pitched to me, wasn't just her company. According to these documents, I owned 67% of it. My signature was on incorporation papers dated 8 months earlier. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through old emails. They're 8 months back. Jennifer had sent me documents, asking me to review and sign what she called partnership papers for a future venture. I'd been dealing with Marcus's school issues at the time and had signed them quickly, trusting my sister. She'd incorporated the company with me as the majority shareholder without explicitly telling me. My phone rang. Jennifer, did you get the papers? She sounded nervous. I did. Want to explain why I own most of your company? Look, it was just for the bank loan application. They wanted to see established investors. I was going to buy you out once we got funding. You made me a majority owner without telling me? It's just paperwork, Sarah. Don't make this a big deal. Does your bank know I'm the majority shareholder? Silence. Jennifer, does the bank know? They think you're an active investor who approved the loan. I leaned back in my chair. The pieces were falling into place. She needed my investment to make her first loan payment. Without it, she'd default. And as the majority owner, I'd be on the hook. So when you publicly humiliated my son yesterday, I said slowly, you didn't know I'd already decided not to invest. What? Sarah, come on. That has nothing to do with business. It has everything to do with it. I'm the majority owner, Jennifer. Which means I make the decisions. You can't do this. I have clients lined up, office space secured. Using loan money you can't pay back without my $50,000. I pulled up the documents on my computer. And according to these papers, any major business decision requires majority shareholder approval. That's me. Sarah, please. I'm your sister. I'm sending you formal documentation today. As majority shareholder, I'm exercising my right to review all business decisions. All client contracts need my approval. All expenses over $500 need my signature. And the office lease you signed? That needs ratification by the majority owner. You're being ridiculous. I'm being a responsible business owner, something you should have considered before you forged my involvement in your company. I heard her breathing heavily on the other end. This is about yesterday, isn't it? About Marcus. This is about you making me a secret majority owner of your company and then treating my family with contempt. Actions have consequences, Jennifer. I'll call Mom and Dad. Go ahead. They can't change corporate ownership documents. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Mom called. Sarah, what is this nonsense about you sabotaging your sister's business? I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm exercising my rights as the majority shareholder of a company she made me own without proper disclosure. She said it was just a formality. Then she committed fraud, Mom. She used my name to secure a business loan without my knowledge or consent. You're being petty because of what happened at Marcus's little ceremony. His little ceremony? He won a regional championship against 200 other students. He beat entries from private schools with unlimited budgets. Jennifer was just being honest. The boy needs to learn to handle criticism. There's a difference between constructive criticism and public humiliation. She grabbed a microphone at a school event to belittle a 12-year-old child. You always were too sensitive. We're just trying to prepare Marcus for the real world. And Jennifer needs to learn that actions have consequences. Kept my voice level. I own 67% of her company. She should have thought about that before publicly humiliating my son. We raised you better than this. Family comes first. Family should treat each other with respect. Something you and Dad never seemed to grasp when it came to me and Marcus. No, you raised me to accept being treated poorly. I'm done with that. I hung up before she could respond. The next few days were chaos. Jennifer sent dozens of emails, veering between apologetic and threatening. My parents called repeatedly. Dad even showed up at my house demanding I stop this childish revenge. I didn't budge. I hired a lawyer to review the company documents. It turned out Jennifer had not only made me the majority owner but had been using my name on multiple loan applications. My credit was tied to her business. If it failed, I'd be liable for hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who specialized in corporate fraud, laid out the full extent of it. 3 separate business loans, all listing me as the primary investor and majority stakeholder. Jennifer had even fabricated email correspondence to make it appear that I was actively involved in business decisions. "You have grounds for a lawsuit," Patricia said, sliding the documents across her desk. "This is textbook identity fraud for financial gain. The bank would be very interested to know its loan was approved based on falsified investor information." My lawyer sent Jennifer a formal letter. Either she bought out my shares at fair market value, which she couldn't afford, or I would take active control of the company's operations. She chose option 3. She called a family meeting. We met at a restaurant, Jennifer, my parents, and me. Marcus was at a friend's house. "You're destroying my dream," Jennifer said as soon as I sat down. "You destroyed it yourself when you committed fraud using my identity." "It wasn't fraud. You signed the papers. Papers you misrepresented." "My lawyer disagrees with your interpretation." Dad leaned forward. "This is family, Sarah. You don't lawyer up against family. She made me legally responsible for a business without my informed consent. That's exactly when you get a lawyer." Mom shook her head. "All this because she spoke her mind at a school event?" "No. All this because she committed fraud, publicly humiliated my child, and expected me to give her $50,000 with no consequences." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "I apologized to Marcus. You sent a text that said, 'Sorry if you were offended.' That's not an apology. What do you want from me?" I pulled out a folder. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to buy me out of the company at the valuation my lawyer determined. You have 6 months to secure alternative funding. During that time, I maintain approval rights over major decisions. You will also write a proper apology to Marcus, acknowledging that what you said was wrong and hurtful. I can't raise that kind of money in 6 months. Then you'll have to get creative. Maybe pitch to those other investors you mentioned." "They don't exist," she admitted quietly. "You were my only real option. Then you should have treated me and my family with respect." My parents stared at me like I was a stranger. "When did you become so cold?" Mom asked. "I'm not cold. I'm done being a doormat." I stood up. "Jennifer, you have until Friday to agree to these terms. Otherwise, my lawyer files for full operational control of the company, and I'll run it myself." I left them sitting there. Friday came. Jennifer signed the agreement. She had 6 months to buy me out. In the meantime, every business decision crossed my desk. The first thing I did was reject the expensive downtown office lease she'd signed. Too much overhead for a startup. I found her a better space for half the cost. Then I reviewed her client contracts. 2 of them were underpriced to the point of guaranteeing losses. I renegotiated them. Within 3 months, the company was actually profitable. Jennifer hated that I was right, but she couldn't argue with the numbers. She also wrote Marcus a real apology, 3 pages handwritten, acknowledging how wrong she'd been and how impressive his achievement was. Marcus kept it in his desk drawer. My parents stopped speaking to me for 2 months. Eventually, Dad called. "Your sister's business is doing well," he said. "I know. I review the reports weekly. She says you might let her buy you out early. If she secures proper funding and demonstrates 6 months of stable profit, yes." He was quiet for a moment. "I didn't know she'd misrepresented those documents." "She didn't forge them. She misrepresented them. There's a difference, legally speaking." Still, that wasn't right. It was the closest he'd come to acknowledging I had a point. "No, it wasn't. And what she said to Marcus, your mother and I shouldn't have laughed." "No, you shouldn't have." Another pause. "Think we could come to his birthday next month?" I thought about it. "If you can treat him with the respect he deserves, yes. We can do that." 6 months later, Jennifer secured funding from a legitimate investor. She bought out my shares at the agreed price. The company was thriving under the systems I'd put in place. We weren't close anymore. Probably never would be. But there was a new understanding. She knew I wouldn't tolerate disrespect, and my parents knew their favoritism had limits. Marcus kept his trophy on his desk. He was working on a new project, something involving water purification. When I asked if he wanted to enter it in next year's competition, he didn't hesitate. Definitely, he said. And Aunt Jennifer can keep her opinions to herself. I smiled. That's my boy. Sometimes standing up for yourself means standing alone. But watching my son work on his project with confidence, knowing he had a mother who would protect him even from family, made every uncomfortable conversation worth it. The award ceremony had changed everything, just not in the way my sister had intended. The conference room still smelled like celebratory champagne when I got the first call from my mother. My daughter, Sarah, had just been named vice president of operations at her consulting firm, the youngest person in company history to hold the position. She was 29 years old and had sacrificed everything for this moment. The partners had surprised her with the announcement during the quarterly meeting, and the entire office had erupted in applause. I'd been there to witness it, standing in the back of the room with tears in my eyes. "We need to talk about this party," Mom said, her voice carrying that particular edge I'd learned to recognize over 5 decades of being her daughter. That tone that meant she'd already made up her mind and was simply informing me of my required compliance. I was standing in Sarah's new office, watching her pack up her old desk 1 floor below. The promotion came with a corner office, a team of 12, and equity in the firm. She'd worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years straight. Missed holidays. Postponed relationships. Lived on coffee and determination. "The party's in 2 weeks, Mom. Everything's already booked." "That's what I'm calling about. Cancel it." I moved away from the window. "Excuse me. Your sister Amanda lost her job yesterday. Got laid off after 15 years. How do you think it's going to look, throwing some elaborate celebration while she's filing for unemployment?" My sister Amanda worked in marketing for a mid-size company, or had worked there. I'd known her position wasn't secure. She'd complained about restructuring for months, but she'd never actually looked for other opportunities. "Mom, I'm sorry about Amanda, but Sarah's been planning this for months. She invited colleagues, clients, friends from college. Then uninvite them. Family comes first. Amanda is devastated. She doesn't need to watch her niece parade around celebrating success while she's hitting rock bottom." Through the glass wall, I could see Sarah carefully placing her framed certifications into a box. She had a master's degree from Wharton, 3 professional certifications, a track record of turning around failing projects that had made her indispensable to the firm. Sarah earned this, Mom. And Amanda didn't earn her layoff, did she? Life isn't fair. Sarah will have other promotions. This is about being sensitive to family in crisis. I'll call Amanda and congratulate her on new opportunities. Don't patronize me. Cancel the party or don't bother showing up to family events anymore. Your choice. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there for a moment, phone still pressed to my ear, watching my daughter organize her achievements into cardboard boxes. Then I walked down the hall to her new office. "Everything okay, Mom?" Sarah looked up from labeling boxes. "Your grandmother called." Her smile faded slightly. "Let me guess. She wants the party to be smaller? Different venue? Different date? She wants it cancelled." Amanda lost her job. Sarah set down her marker carefully. Too carefully. The way she did when she was fighting to stay composed in client meetings. "I see." I told her no. "It's okay, Mom. We can cancel. I don't need a party. You worked 3 years for this promotion, Sarah. And Aunt Amanda worked 15 years at her job. Grandma's right, it would be insensitive. Your aunt had 15 years to update her skills, network, or plan for this possibility. You sacrificed your 20s for this achievement." Sarah's phone buzzed. Then mine. Then hers again. Family group chat. My mother had posted, disappointed to learn some family members value showing off over supporting each other in hard times. Amanda is struggling and certain people are throwing parties. Disgusting. My sister joined in. "Thanks for the support during the worst week of my life. Really feeling the family love here." My brother added, "Maybe postpone?" Not asking for cancellation, just sensitivity. Then cousins started chiming in. Aunts. Even Sarah's younger cousin posted, "Kinda harsh to celebrate while Aunt Amanda is suffering." Sarah's face had gone pale. "Mom, let's just cancel. It's not worth this." "Okay," I said quietly. She blinked. "Really? Really? You're right. It's not worth this. I called the event coordinator that afternoon and canceled the reservation. Lost the deposit, but that was fine. Then I made several other phone calls. By evening I'd arranged something different. The next morning I picked Sarah up from her apartment at 9. She was dressed for work, assuming I was giving her a ride. We have an appointment first, I said. Mom, I have a team meeting at 10. I called your boss. You're taking a personal day. She gave me a concerned look but got in the car. I drove us to Pinnacle Tower downtown, the new luxury building that had just finished construction. 38 floors of glass and steel overlooking the river. Penthouses starting at $800,000. Why are we here? Sarah asked as I pulled into the parking garage. You'll see. The real estate agent met us in the lobby. Her name was Patricia, and she'd been helping me for the past 3 weeks, since before Sarah's promotion was even announced. Mrs. Thompson, wonderful to see you. And this must be Sarah. Congratulations on your promotion. Sarah looked at me. Mom. Let's see the unit, I said. We rode the elevator to the 36th floor. Patricia unlocked unit 3604 and gestured us inside. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the entire western wall. An open-concept living area with hardwood floors gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. A kitchen with marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, the kind Sarah had pinned on inspiration boards for years. 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. A balcony overlooking the river and city skyline, with enough space for a small garden and outdoor furniture. The master bedroom had a walk-in closet bigger than her current apartment's bedroom. Sarah walked slowly through the space, running her hand along the marble kitchen island. She stepped onto the balcony and gripped the railing, looking down at the city 36 floors below. The river caught the sunlight, sparkling like scattered diamonds. Mom, what is this? Your promotion present. Since we canceled the party, I thought you deserved something more permanent. Patricia smiled and discreetly stepped onto the balcony to give us privacy. This is insane. These units cost $850,000. I know. I'm paying cash. Sarah sat down on the built-in window seat, staring at me. You can't afford this. I can actually. Your father and I bought rental properties in our 20s. We've been managing them for 30 years. We sold 3 of them last month. The equity was substantial. You never told me about rental properties. You never needed to know. We lived modestly, invested wisely, and didn't advertise our assets. Your grandmother thinks I'm a struggling middle manager who barely gets by. Let her think that. But this is too much. You worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years, Sarah. You missed holidays, birthdays, your own life. You earned a promotion that most people don't achieve until their 40s. Your grandmother wanted to take away your moment of recognition because your aunt, who refused to update her skills, network, or prepare for industry changes, finally faced consequences. That's not family support. That's demanding you diminish yourself to make others comfortable. Patricia came back inside. Shall we do the paperwork? I looked at Sarah. Your choice. We can walk away right now. Or you can own this penthouse by this afternoon. Sarah stood up slowly, walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Her city, the one she'd conquered through talent and determination. Let's do the paperwork, she said. We spent 2 hours signing documents. Patricia explained every detail of ownership, maintenance fees, and building amenities. By noon, Sarah held the keys to her new home. There's one more thing, I said as we walked to my car. I'm going to post about this on social media. Mom, that'll make things worse with the family. Good. Let them see what happens when you actually earn success instead of expecting everyone else to shrink for your comfort. That evening, I posted photos. Sarah holding her keys in front of Pinnacle Tower, the glass building gleaming behind her, standing on her balcony with the city behind her, the sunset painting the sky orange and pink, the view from her living room window showing the river and downtown skyline, a close-up of the ownership documents with her name clearly visible. The caption read, "Celebrating my daughter's VP promotion the right way. So proud of her achievements and sacrifices. Some people work 80-hour weeks for 3 years to earn their success. She deserves every square foot of this beautiful home. Hard work pays off when you refuse to settle for comfortable mediocrity." The family group chat exploded within minutes. Mom, this is disgusting. flaunting wealth while Amanda suffers. Amanda, unbelievable. Thanks for rubbing my unemployment in my face. My brother. Was this really necessary to post publicly? But other comments started coming in too. Sarah's colleagues congratulating her. College friends celebrating. Professional contacts impressed by her achievement. The post got shared. Then shared again. By the next morning, my mother showed up at my house. Amanda was with her. So was my brother, David. We need to talk about your inappropriate behavior, Mom announced, pushing past me into my living room. Come in, I said drily. Amanda's eyes were red. How could you do this? I'm struggling and you're buying penthouses. I bought my daughter a penthouse because she earned it. Your employment status doesn't change her achievement. Family supports each other, David said. This is cruel. Sarah worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years. She sacrificed her entire 20s for her career. She earned recognition and celebration. Demanding she cancel her moment because Amanda finally faced consequences for failing to adapt isn't support. It's controlling. Mom's face flushed. Amanda worked 15 years at that company, doing the same job with the same skills while the industry evolved around her. Sarah constantly updated her certifications, expanded her expertise, and networked relentlessly. That's the difference. So you're rich now? Amanda's voice dripped with bitterness. Just had $850,000 lying around? Your father and I invested in rental properties 30 years ago. We lived below our means, saved aggressively, and built equity. We made financial choices that created opportunities. That's not luck, it's planning. And you never helped me? Amanda demanded. All these years you had money and rental properties and you watched me struggle? You never asked. And when I suggested you update your skills or expand your network, you said you were comfortable where you were. When I mentioned professional development courses, you said they were a waste of time. When I offered to connect you with people in your industry, you said you didn't need networking. Comfort doesn't create security, Amanda. My mother's hands shook. You've become cruel. Materialistic. This isn't how I raised you. I taught you to be humble, to think of others first. You raised me to believe that success should be hidden to avoid making others uncomfortable. That achievement should be diminished so unsuccessful people don't feel bad. That women especially should make themselves smaller to avoid threatening anyone. I raised Sarah differently. I taught her that hard work deserves recognition and that other people's choices aren't her responsibility to fix. She could have postponed the party, David said quietly. She could have. And then what? Postponed her next promotion party when someone else has a setback? Turned down opportunities because they might make others feel inadequate? Spent her life shrinking so everyone else feels comfortable? No. She earned this. She gets to celebrate it. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Sarah still in her work clothes, holding a folder. Grandma, Aunt Amanda, Uncle David, she said, walking past them to the dining table. She spread out the papers. Since we're all here, I should show you these. Ownership documents. Building amenities guide. Mortgage information showing paid in full. Amanda stared at the papers. You really bought this? Cash. Mom bought it. I'm signing the final ownership transfer today at 3. While I'm unemployed. Great timing. Sarah looked at her directly. Aunt Amanda, I'm sorry you lost your job. That's genuinely difficult. But I worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years. I missed every family holiday. I postponed dating, friendships, hobbies. Everything. I earned this promotion through sacrifice and skill. Mom bought me this penthouse because she's proud of that work. Your job loss doesn't erase my achievement. Easy to say when you're standing in a penthouse. I'm standing in my dining room, actually. The penthouse is downtown. And yes, it is easier to say when you have success. That's why I worked for it. My mother gathered her purse. You've both made your position clear. Don't expect us at family events. Understood, I said. They left in a storm of slammed doors and muttered complaints. Sarah and I sat in silence for a moment. Are you okay? I asked. I'm signing ownership papers for a penthouse in 3 hours. I'm better than okay. We drove downtown together. Patricia met us at the building with the final documents. Sarah signed each page carefully, her hand steady. When she finished, Patricia handed her a leather portfolio with all the ownership records. Congratulations, Ms. Thompson. You're now the proud owner of Unit 3604. Sarah held the portfolio, looking down at her name on the documents. Visual. Permanent. My phone buzzed, the family group chat. My mother had posted a long message about family betrayal and materialism, and how success had corrupted her daughter and granddaughter. I muted the chat and put my phone away. Want to see your place again? I asked Sarah. As the owner this time? We rode up to the 36th floor. Sarah unlocked her door with her own key, walked into her own home, stood at her own floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at her own view of the city. Thank you, Mom, she said quietly. Not just for this. For teaching me that I don't have to apologize for success. You earned every bit of this, sweetheart. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She smiled, and in that moment I saw everything I'd hoped to give her. Not just a penthouse, but something more valuable. The understanding that achievement deserves celebration, that hard work earns recognition, and that other people's failures aren't her responsibility to fix by diminishing herself. 2 weeks later, Sarah hosted a housewarming party. Her colleagues came. Her friends came. Professional contacts came. The people who celebrated her success instead of resenting it. The family group chat stayed muted on my phone. And somewhere in that beautiful penthouse, with the city lights spreading out below and the future stretching wide ahead, my daughter finally got the celebration she'd earned. The champagne flutes sat untouched on my kitchen counter, still wrapped in their protective packaging. 6 months of planning, countless vendor meetings, and a non-refundable deposit of $90,000. All of it hung in the balance because of a phone call I'd received 3 hours ago. Sarah, we need to talk about your wedding date. Mom's voice had that particular tone she used when she'd already made a decision and was simply informing me of it. The tone that meant this wasn't a discussion. It was a directive. I'd been reviewing seating charts with my fiancé Marcus when she called. We'd just finalized the table arrangements after weeks of careful planning, making sure elderly relatives weren't too far from bathrooms and ensuring feuding cousins were strategically separated. What about it? Your sister needs that weekend. She's getting married again, and the venue she wants only has that date available. The Grandview Estate, you know the one. Very exclusive. I set down my pen slowly, a cold feeling settling in my stomach. Mom, that's our date. We've had it booked for 6 months. We signed contracts. I understand, sweetheart, but this is important. Emma's been through so much with her divorces. 2 failed marriages really take a toll on a person. This could be the one. David seems different from the others. This is her 3rd wedding, Mom. In 5 years. Exactly why we need to make it special. She deserves happiness after everything she's been through. You know how sensitive she is about her past relationships. Marcus watched my face carefully, already knowing where this conversation was headed. We'd been together for 8 years, engaged for 2. Emma had been married and divorced twice in that same period. We've already sent save the dates to 200 people, I said, keeping my voice level. They've blocked off their calendars, booked flights, arranged childcare. Some of our friends are coming from overseas. They'll understand if you explain. These things happen all the time. Family comes first, Sarah. You've always understood that. Besides, Emma has her heart set on the Grandview Estate, and they only have your date available for the next year. You know how hard it is to book that venue. Mom, we booked the beachfront venue in Malibu. We've paid deposits to the caterer, the photographer, the florist, the band. Everything's arranged. The contracts have cancellation penalties. We're talking about thousands of dollars in non-refundable deposits. You can reschedule all of that. The beach will always be there. But Emma needs this, and I need you to be the bigger person here. I looked at Marcus, who shook his head slightly. We'd been through this pattern before. Emma's needs always took priority. Her first wedding had conflicted with my college graduation. I'd skipped the ceremony to be her maid of honor. Her second wedding had been scheduled the same weekend as my job interview for a position I'd worked years to qualify for. I'd declined the interview. What does Dad say about this? I asked. He agrees with me. Emma's happiness is what matters. You and Marcus have been together forever. You can wait a few more months. Emma needs to secure this while she has the chance. The chance. I repeated. Before the venue books up. Before David changes his mind. You know how these things work. David was Emma's current fiancé. They'd been together for 4 months. Mom, I'm not changing our wedding date. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 5 seconds. Then her voice turned cold. I see. So you're going to be selfish about this. I'm not being selfish. I'm keeping the wedding date we planned and paid for. Your father and I contributed to that wedding budget, young lady. We have a say in this. You contributed $5,000. We've spent $90,000 total. That $5,000 was a gift, and gifts can be revoked. If you won't be reasonable about this, don't expect us to be there. And don't expect any of the family to choose your wedding over Emma's. You're forcing everyone to pick sides. Marcus reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm not forcing anything, I said quietly. We're keeping our date. Then you're on your own. Don't come crying to us when you have an empty venue because everyone chose to support your sister instead. She hung up. Marcus pulled me into a hug. You okay? No, I admitted. But I'm done letting them do this. Over the next week the calls started. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all with the same script. Couldn't I be more flexible? Didn't I understand how important this was for Emma? Why was I being so stubborn? My father called on day 3. Your mother's very upset. So am I, Dad. Emma's fragile right now. This wedding could really help her get back on her feet. And what about my wedding? You're stronger than Emma. You can handle disappointment better. That sentence sat in my chest like a stone. 29 years of being the reliable one, the flexible one, the one who could handle disappointment. I'm keeping the date, Dad. Then I hope you and Marcus will be very happy together, because you're making a choice that's going to cost you your family. He hung up too. That night Marcus and I sat on our apartment balcony watching the sunset. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to get married, I said. I want the wedding we planned. I want the beach and the sunset and the people who actually care about us. Then that's what we'll do. My entire family just uninvited themselves. Your family maybe, but not our family. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through our guest list. Look at this. Your college roommate who flew in from Tokyo for your engagement party and already bought her plane ticket for the wedding. My cousin who helped me pick out your ring and took time off work 6 months in advance. Your mentor from work who's been asking about the wedding for months and already ordered a custom gift. The friends who've been there for every milestone, who threw you that surprise 30th birthday party, who helped us move into this apartment. That's family too. Real family. I looked at the list, really looked at it. He was right. Out of 200 guests, maybe 30 were my blood relatives, and most of those were distant cousins I saw once every few years. The rest were people who'd chosen to be in our lives, who'd celebrated with us during good times and supported us through bad, who showed up when it mattered without being obligated by genetics. You know what? I said slowly. I have an idea. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I know that look. What are you planning? What if we just did it? Kept it secret from my family, had the wedding exactly as planned, and let them figure it out afterward. They'd lose their minds. They're already not coming. They've already chosen Emma's wedding. So what difference does it make? He considered this. You want to go full stealth mode? Complete radio silence. We tell the guests the truth, we have our perfect day, and we don't say a word to my parents or Emma until it's done. They'll find out eventually. Eventually isn't now. And by the time they do, we'll be married and they can't do anything about it. The smile that spread across Marcus's face told me he was in. We spent the next week making calls. Every guest on our list except my blood relatives got a personal call from us. We explained the situation, asked for their discretion, and almost everyone immediately agreed. Some were angry on our behalf. Others weren't surprised. Your mom pulled this at your graduation, my former roommate Jennifer said. I remember. You've been letting them do this your whole life. Not this time, I told her. The RSVPs came back. Out of 170 non-family guests, 168 confirmed. We were going to have our wedding. My mother called twice more, each time asking if I'd come to my senses. Each time I told her I was still thinking about it. Let her think she was wearing me down. Let her believe I'd cave like I always had. Emma called once. I heard you're being difficult about the date. I'm keeping my wedding date, Emma. You're really going to make me find another venue? Do you know how hard it is to plan a wedding? You've done it twice before. I think you'll manage. She gasped like I'd slapped her. That's cruel. What's cruel is asking me to cancel my wedding for yours. Family is supposed to support each other. You're right, I said. They are. I hung up before she could respond. 2 weeks before our wedding date, my mother left a voicemail. I hope you're happy. Emma found a venue for 2 weeks after your date, but it's not what she wanted. She's settling because of your selfishness. I hope you can live with that. I deleted the message. The Thursday before our Saturday wedding, Marcus and I took the day off work. We loaded our already packed bags into our car and drove to the airport. We'd moved the wedding up by 12 hours, starting Friday evening instead of Saturday afternoon. One more layer of protection. Friday afternoon, we stood on a beach in Malibu, surrounded by 168 people who'd chosen to be there. Jennifer was my maid of honor. Marcus's brother stood as his best man. The sunset was perfect. The flowers were exactly what I'd wanted. The photographer captured every moment. We said our vows as waves crashed behind us. I promised to choose him every day. He promised to build a life where I never came second. When the officiant pronounced us married, the cheer that went up could probably be heard a mile away. At the reception, my mentor from work gave a toast. I've watched Sarah navigate impossible situations with grace for 5 years. Today she chose herself. That takes more courage than any of us realize. The party lasted until midnight. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated with people who genuinely loved us. Not one person mentioned my absent family. It was like they didn't exist. Saturday morning we posted the photos. All of them. The ceremony, the reception, the sunset, the cake cutting, the first dance. Jennifer had created a beautiful video montage set to music. We uploaded everything to social media with a simple caption, "Best day of our lives. Married June 15, 24. Then Marcus and I boarded a plane to Bali. We were somewhere over the Pacific Ocean when my phone started blowing up. I turned off notifications, but I could see the number count climbing. Messages, missed calls, voicemails piling up. I showed Marcus. 63 notifications in 2 hours. Going to look? Not until we land. We touched down in Bali 14 hours later. I turned my phone back on while we waited for our luggage. 147 notifications. The messages were a mix. Friends sending congratulations. Distant relatives who'd seen the posts asking why they weren't invited. And then my immediate family. Mom, how could you do this? Mom, you lied to us. Mom, you had a wedding without your own mother? Mom, everyone is asking me why I wasn't there. I'm humiliated. Emma, you're unbelievable. You had your wedding anyway and didn't even tell us. Emma, people are commenting on your photos asking about me. This is MY weekend. Dad, very disappointed in your behavior. Call me immediately. Aunt Linda, your mother is devastated. How could you be so selfish? And then buried in the middle from my cousin James, good for you. Your wedding looked beautiful. Congrats. I showed Marcus the messages. He scrolled through them, his jaw tightening. They're mad they couldn't control you, he said finally. They're mad they look bad, I corrected. Mom's humiliated because people are asking questions. Emma's upset because my wedding is getting attention during her weekend, even though my wedding was first. What do you want to do? I looked at my phone at the guilt trips and accusations and demands. Then I looked at my new husband, at the ring on my finger, at the beautiful island stretching out before us. Nothing, I said. I want to do absolutely nothing. I want to enjoy my honeymoon with my husband, and they can figure out their own feelings. I turned my phone on airplane mode and dropped it in my bag. We spent 2 weeks in Bali, snorkeling, temple visits, beach dinners, couples massages. We talked about our future, about the family we'd build together, about the boundaries we'd need to maintain. You know they're not going to let this go, Marcus said one evening as we watched the sunset from our villa. I know. But I'm done letting their inability to be happy for me dictate my choices. Even if they cut you off completely? Even then. I spent 29 years trying to earn their approval by being whoever they needed me to be. I'm done. When we returned home, there were more messages. Mom had called 12 more times. Emma had sent a long text about how I'd ruined her wedding weekend by stealing her thunder. Dad had sent one line, "When you're ready to apologize, we'll talk." I read them all, then blocked their numbers. It's been 3 months now. We're settled into married life. Our apartment has wedding photos on every wall. Friends still comment on how beautiful the day was. A few family members reached out privately to apologize for not standing up for us sooner. My parents and Emma haven't contacted me since I blocked them, though I heard through my cousin that Emma's wedding went off without a hitch. She got her perfect day at the Grandview estate. And I got mine too, on a beach in Malibu, surrounded by people who chose love over obligation, with a man who promised I'd never come second again. I don't regret a single decision. Not the secret planning, not the social media reveal, not the blocking. Because for the first time in my life I chose myself. And that choice gave me the most perfect day I could have imagined. The champagne flutes are unpacked now, sitting in our kitchen cabinet. We use them for special occasions, like the night we got back from Bali and toasted to our future, to our freedom, and to the family we're building together. We chose ourselves. And we'd do it again. The fluorescent lights of the pediatric intensive care unit had become my entire world. My daughter Emma, just 3 months old, lay in the incubator with tubes running from her tiny body. Respiratory syncytial virus, the doctors said. Critical but stable. Those 2 words had become my mantra, repeated every time a machine beeped or a nurse rushed in to check vitals. I'd been here for 72 hours straight, sleeping in the uncomfortable vinyl chair beside her crib, leaving only to use the bathroom. The chair had left permanent indentations on my back. My clothes smelled like antiseptic and fear. I hadn't showered since we arrived. None of it mattered compared to watching Emma's chest rise and fall, counting each breath like a prayer. My stomach had stopped growling around hour 50. Now it just ached, a dull, constant reminder that I hadn't eaten since the granola bar I'd grabbed before the ambulance came. The hospital cafeteria had closed hours ago, and I couldn't leave Emma's side long enough to find food elsewhere. What if something happened while I was gone? What if she needed me and I wasn't there? The vending machines on this floor had been emptied yesterday. I checked twice. My wallet had $43 in it, but that didn't matter when there was nowhere to spend it and no one to watch Emma while I searched. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. Mom, Dad, my older sister Jennifer, and my younger brother Marcus. Surely one of them could help. I haven't eaten in days, I typed, my fingers shaking slightly from exhaustion and hunger. Please bring food. Anything. I'm at City General, Pediatric ICU. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Mom was typing. You chose to be a single mom, deal with it. I stared at the message, waiting for the follow-up, the clarification, anything that would make it not mean what it clearly meant. But nothing came. Then Jennifer's message popped up. We told you not to have that baby. Actions have consequences. Marcus added his contribution. Can't bail you out of every bad decision, sis. Dad's message was last. Your mother's right. You made your bed. I set the phone down carefully on the small side table, my hands no longer shaking. Something cold and clear settled over me. I looked at Emma's tiny chest rising and falling with the help of the ventilator, and I made a decision. Understood, I typed back. Then I muted the group chat. A nurse named Patricia found me around 2 a.m., crying silently beside Emma's crib. She didn't ask questions, just disappeared and returned 20 minutes later with a turkey sandwich, apple slices, and a bottle of water from the staff break room. She sat with me while I ate, talking about her own daughter, now grown. Family can be complicated, she said quietly, and I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Emma began to improve on day 5. The doctor said her oxygen levels were stabilizing. By day 7, they moved her out of intensive care into the regular pediatric ward. The relief nearly broke me. I cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and primal. By day 10 we went home to my small apartment, just the 2 of us. The apartment had never felt so empty and so full at the same time. Emma's breathing was still raspy, requiring breathing treatments every 4 hours. I set alarms, kept detailed logs, and called the pediatrician twice a day with updates. I blocked out the memory of that group chat, filed it away in a place I wouldn't have to look at it. But late at night, during the 2 a.m. breathing treatment, I'd remember Mom's words. You chose to be a single mom, deal with it. The words echoed in the quiet apartment. I went back to work at the consulting firm 2 weeks later. Emma in daycare, my life a careful balance of bottles and deadlines and sleepless nights. My boss had been understanding about the hospital stay, but understanding only went so far. I had clients to manage, presentations to give, reports to file. Every morning I dropped Emma at Little Sprouts daycare at 7:15 a.m. Every evening I picked her up at 6:30 p.m., rushed home, did the bath bottle bed routine, then opened my laptop to finish the work I couldn't complete during office hours. On weekends I meal prepped, did laundry, cleaned, scheduled doctor's appointments and paid bills. There was no margin for error, no safety net. I didn't reach out to my family. They didn't reach out to me. The silence was easier than I expected. No obligatory Sunday dinners where they'd make comments about my choices. No holiday gatherings where I'd feel like the family disappointment. Just me and Emma building our own little world. 6 weeks after that night in the hospital, my phone buzzed with a notification. The family group chat still muted. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the small part of me that still hoped they'd acknowledged what they'd done. Mom had sent a message to everyone. Our restaurant is failing. Need $5,000 to make rent and payroll. Can everyone chip in? I sat back against my couch, Emma asleep on my chest. Their restaurant, the one they'd opened 3 years ago with money from selling their house, pouring everything into a farm-to-table concept in the trendy downtown district. Harvest Moon, they'd called it. Locally sourced ingredients, craft cocktails, exposed brick walls. They'd talked about it endlessly at family dinners before Emma was born. Their dream finally realized. The opening had been lavish. I'd been 7 months pregnant, standing in the corner while they toasted with champagne and posed for photos with local food bloggers. They'd never asked me to invest, of course. I was just the daughter who'd gotten pregnant by a man who disappeared the moment he saw the positive test. What could I possibly contribute? I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that business had been struggling. Competition in the downtown food scene was brutal. 3 other farm-to-table places had opened within 6 blocks. Reviews had been mixed. But I hadn't realized things were this bad. Jennifer responded first. I can do $500. Things are tight with the kids' tuition. Marcus, maybe $300? Just bought a new car. Dad, we're asking you kids because the bank won't extend our credit. This is serious. Mom, we could lose everything. 20 years of savings. Please. My fingers moved across the screen almost of their own accord. You chose to open a restaurant. Deal with it. I hit send and set the phone down. Emma stirred against my chest, making small sleeping sounds. I waited. The response came in seconds. Mom, how dare you? This is family. Jennifer, wow. Really showing your true colors. Marcus, that's cold even for you. Dad, your mother and I are shocked. After everything we've done for you. I didn't respond. I put the phone on silent and focused on my daughter. The next morning, a Saturday, my doorbell rang at 8:30 a.m. I checked the peephole and saw my mother standing there, my father beside her. Both looked older than I remembered. Mom's hair had more gray. Dad's shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen before. I considered not answering, but Emma was awake and happy in her bouncer, and I was tired of hiding. I'd spent too many years trying to please them, trying to earn approval that never came. What did I have left to lose? I opened the door but didn't invite them in. The morning air was cool. I was still in my pajamas, hair unwashed, but I stood straight. We need to talk about this, Mom said, her voice tight and controlled. Family helps family. Like you helped me when Emma was dying in the hospital? The words came out flat, emotionless. I'd practiced this in my head during sleepless nights. When I was starving and terrified and begging for a sandwich? Dad's face reddened the way it always did when he was embarrassed or angry. That was different. We were teaching you responsibility. You needed to understand the weight of your choices. By letting me starve while my infant daughter fought for her life. I shifted Emma to my other hip. She grabbed at my hair, oblivious to the tension. That's an interesting definition of responsibility. Tell me, what was the lesson? That my child's life didn't matter? That my suffering was deserved? You're being dramatic, Jennifer said, appearing behind them on the walkway. She must have been waiting in the car. It was 3 days. You didn't actually starve. Don't be hysterical. I looked at my sister, the one who'd always been the favorite. Perfect grades, perfect husband, perfect kids in their perfect private school. She'd never made a mistake in her life, never needed help she couldn't pay for. You're right, I said calmly. I didn't starve. I didn't die. Emma didn't die, though it wasn't for lack of trying on that virus's part. A nurse I'd never met before. A complete stranger named Patricia fed me from the staff break room because my own family told me to deal with it. I paused, letting that sink in. So now I'm telling you the same thing. Deal with it. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We could lose the restaurant. Lose everything. Then you'll understand exactly how I felt watching my daughter struggle to breathe while my stomach ate itself and my family told me I deserved it. I started to close the door. Now if you'll excuse me, Emma needs her breakfast. Wait, Dad said, his hand catching the door. What if we apologize? Would you help then? I looked at him, really looked. He was serious. He thought an apology now, 6 weeks later, extracted under financial pressure, would somehow fix this. You don't get it, I said quietly. I don't have $5,000 to give you. I'm a single mother working 60-hour weeks to afford daycare and rent. But even if I did, even if I had $50,000 sitting in the bank, I wouldn't give it to you. Because you're vindictive, Jennifer spat. No. Because you taught me an important lesson in that hospital. You taught me that I'm on my own. That Emma and I are our own family now and we take care of ourselves. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I'm just being responsible. Isn't that what you wanted? I closed the door before any of them could respond, locked it, and walked back to the kitchen with Emma. My hands were steady as I prepared her bottle. Through the door I could hear them arguing on my doorstep, voices rising and falling. Eventually they left. The group chat exploded over the next few days. Messages fluctuated between guilt-tripping and anger, between pleading and accusation. I read them all but responded to none. Marcus tried a different approach. Look, I get you're mad about the hospital thing. But this is Mom and Dad's entire life. They're going to lose the house if the restaurant fails. I finally responded, they already sold the house to open the restaurant. Or did you forget? The chat went quiet for several hours. Then Dad sent a private message just to me. Your mother is having panic attacks. The stress is making her sick. I know we hurt you. I know we should have been there. But please. We're your parents. I stared at the message for a long time, Emma playing with her toys on the blanket beside me. I thought about that night in the hospital, the fluorescent lights, the fear, the hunger. I thought about Patricia, the nurse, a stranger who showed me more kindness than my own family. You were my parents, I typed back. Past tense. You made your choice when I needed you most. Now live with it. I blocked his number. Then I blocked all of them. 2 months later I saw that the restaurant had closed. The windows were papered over, a for lease sign hanging in the door. I'd driven past it on my way to a client meeting downtown. The sign also advertised turnkey restaurant space available, with a realtor's phone number. I felt nothing looking at it. No satisfaction, no guilt, nothing. It was just a building where people used to eat. Another failed business in a competitive market. The sidewalk table where they used to serve weekend brunch was gone. The chalkboard sign announcing daily specials had disappeared. I heard through a mutual friend that my parents had moved in with Jennifer, that they'd filed for bankruptcy, and that Dad had gone back to work at 63, doing consulting for his old firm. Mom wasn't speaking to anyone outside the family. They blamed me for not helping, for being cruel, for choosing revenge over family. The narrative they'd constructed was simple. I could have saved them and chose not to. But here's what they never understood. It wasn't revenge. Revenge would have required me to care, to want them to hurt the way they'd hurt me. I simply didn't care anymore. They'd severed something fundamental that night when I sat starving beside my sick child and begged for help. They'd shown me exactly how much my well-being mattered to them, how much Emma mattered to them. And I'd learned the lesson. Emma is 8 months old now. She's healthy, hitting all her milestones, laughing at everything. We have our routines, our little life. I got a promotion at work. I found a better daycare. I made friends with other single moms who understand what it's like to do this alone. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty, if I should have been the bigger person, helped them despite everything. But then I remember those 3 days. The hunger, the fear, the crushing loneliness of being told to deal with it by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. They taught me to deal with it. So I did. Just not in the way they expected. Last week I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Marcus texting from a new phone. Mom's in the hospital. Heart problems from the stress. She's asking for you. I read it twice, then blocked the number. I chose to be a single mom and I dealt with it. Now they could deal with their choices too. Emma and I were doing just fine. The Thanksgiving table stretched across my dining room, laden with food I'd spent 2 days preparing. My sister Jennifer sat at the head, one hand protectively cradling her 6-month-old daughter while the other gestured dismissively toward my twins playing quietly in the corner. "We need to talk about living arrangements," Jennifer announced, her voice cutting through the family chatter. "My baby needs proper space. A nursery. Room to grow." I set down the gravy boat carefully. "Your apartment has 2 bedrooms. "Exactly. One for us, one for storage. We can't have a baby sharing space with boxes." She looked at Mom, who nodded encouragingly. "Your kids are older. They can share one room. We need your 2nd bedroom." My twins, Emma and Lucas, were 7. They each had their own small room in my modest 2-bedroom apartment down the hall from Jennifer's larger unit. "They already share everything else," I said quietly. "Their rooms are their only private spaces." "Children don't need privacy at that age," Mom interjected. "Jennifer's baby is an infant. Completely different needs." My brother David smirked from across the table. "Come on, Sarah. Be reasonable. Your kids are in school all day anyway. What do they need separate rooms for? Besides," Jennifer continued, "I've been thinking about this building situation. It's not really fair." "What situation?" I asked. "You living here rent-free while the rest of us pay. Just because you help the landlord with bookkeeping doesn't mean you should get special treatment." I'd been managing the building's finances for 3 years. Rent collection, maintenance scheduling, vendor payments, tax documentation. The previous owner had valued my accounting background. "I pay rent," I said. "Barely anything, I'm sure." Jennifer waved her hand. "The point is, my baby deserves better than what we can currently provide. And you're hoarding space." "Hoarding," I repeated. 2 bedrooms for 3 people when we have 3 people crammed into 2 bedrooms. The baby sleeps in our room. It's not sustainable." Aunt Linda joined in. "Jennifer has a point, Sarah. Babies need so much equipment. Cribs, changing tables, monitors. Where does she put it all?" "In the nursery she should have," Jennifer answered. "Which is why I'm giving you notice. 1 month to consolidate your kids into 1 room. I'll take over the lease on your 2nd bedroom. We can work out a fair price." The absurdity almost made me laugh. "You want to rent my daughter's bedroom?" "I want what's best for my child. Something you'd understand if you prioritized properly." She looked pointedly at my twins, who had stopped playing to listen. "Your kids will be fine sharing. Mine needs proper accommodations." "The building doesn't work that way," I said. "Then we'll talk to the landlord about transferring space. I'm sure they'll be reasonable once they understand an infant's needs come before elementary school children's wants." Mom reached over and squeezed Jennifer's hand. "You're such a good mother. Always putting your baby first." "Someone has to think about the children's welfare," Jennifer said, looking directly at me. I stood and began clearing plates. In the kitchen, I could hear them continuing the conversation, discussing paint colors for the nursery and furniture arrangements. My hands shook slightly as I scraped leftovers into containers. Emma appeared beside me. "Mom, do I have to give up my room?" "No, sweetheart. Aunt Jennifer said we're being selfish." "You're not selfish for wanting your own space." Lucas joined us. "She said babies are more important than big kids." "Every child is important," I told them both. "Go finish your pie." When I returned to the dining room, Jennifer had a document on the table. "I had my lawyer draw this up. Just a formality. It specifies the room transfer, new rent allocation, and timeline for your compliance." "Compliance," I said. 1 month, Sarah. Plenty of time to rearrange furniture." She slid the paper across the table. "Sign here." I picked up the document. It was surprisingly detailed, specifying exact measurements of Emma's room, proposed monthly charges, even paint color approval requirements. "You've put a lot of thought into this." "I'm thorough. My baby deserves thorough planning." She pulled out a pen. "Let's make it official." "Before I sign anything," I said carefully, "I should mention something about the building." "What about it?" "The ownership changed last month." Jennifer frowned. "So, that doesn't affect tenant arrangements." "We'll explain to the new landlord." The previous owner retired. Sold the property to someone local who understood its value. Great. New landlord, fresh start. They'll probably appreciate tenants who maximize space efficiently. Jennifer tapped the document. Sign. The thing is, I continued, watching her confident expression, the new owner is very particular about lease modifications. I'm sure we can negotiate. Who is it? Some investment company. Not exactly. Mom leaned forward. Sarah, just sign the paper. You're making this difficult for no reason. I can't sign a lease modification, I said, because I don't have authority to alter my own property agreements. The room went quiet. What? Jennifer's pen paused midair. The building. I bought it last month. The previous owner gave me first option because of my management work. I'd been saving for years. David laughed. You can barely afford your own rent. I could barely afford rent, I corrected. Past tense. I took out a mortgage, used my savings for the down payment. The building appraised well below market because of deferred maintenance, which I'd already documented. That made it affordable. Jennifer's face had gone pale. You're joking. The deed transferred on October 15th. I'm still learning the full scope of ownership responsibilities, but I'm getting there. This is insane, Jennifer said. You can't own this building. The county records disagree. So does my mortgage company. Mom stood up. Sarah, if this is true, then you absolutely should give Jennifer that room. You own the building. You can do whatever you want with the space. Actually, I can't. Each unit has a legal lease agreement, including mine and Jennifer's. I can't arbitrarily change room allocations within leased apartments. But you're the landlord, Aunt Linda said. Which means I'm bound by landlord-tenant law. I can't enter Jennifer's apartment without notice. I can't modify her lease without mutual agreement. And I definitely can't force my children out of their bedrooms in my own leased unit to accommodate her preferences. Jennifer's hands were shaking now. Wait, if you own the building, that means our rent goes to me, yes. Along with everyone else's. The building has 12 units. Yours is the largest 3-bedroom on the top floor. The most expensive unit, David said slowly. Market rate for the neighborhood. You negotiated your lease 3 years ago when rates were lower. It's actually below current market value. Jennifer's lawyer-prepared document lay on the table between us. I picked it up again, reading her proposed terms more carefully. This is interesting, I said. You wanted to charge me $400 monthly to lease my daughter's bedroom. But your current rent for a 3-bedroom is $1,800. So, Jennifer snapped. So a single bedroom in a 2-bedroom unit shouldn't cost nearly a quarter of a 3-bedroom's total rent. The math doesn't work. I set the paper down. Unless you were planning to profit from my daughter's space while still paying your own lower rent. Mom reached for the document. Let me see that. Also, I continued, your lease comes up for renewal in February. 3 months from now. Jennifer's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Raise my rent. Kick me out. That's vindictive. I wouldn't kick you out for no reason. That's illegal. But I will be bringing all units up to current market rates at renewal time. The building appraiser valued your apartment at $2,300 per month based on size and location. That's $500 more than I pay now. It's market rate. Everyone's lease will adjust accordingly. I'm actually required to charge fair market value for tax purposes. David cleared his throat. What about us? Our lease. Yours renews in April. 2-bedroom units are appraising at $1,900. You currently pay $1,500. A $400 increase? His smirk had vanished completely. I'll work with everyone on the timeline. Maybe phase increases over 2 years. But yes, the building has been undercharging for a while. It's why the previous owner sold. He couldn't afford maintenance at current rent levels. Mom set down the document with shaking hands. Sarah, you can't do this to family. I'm not doing anything to family. I'm running a business according to legal requirements and market standards. We'll move out, Jennifer said. All of us. You'll have empty units. That's your choice. Though finding 3-bedroom apartments in this neighborhood under $2,500 is difficult. I checked. I started gathering dessert plates. I'm happy to keep you all as tenants at fair market rates. Good tenants who pay on time are valuable. You've been planning this, Jennifer accused. Waiting to trap us. I've been saving money and working extra hours to afford a property investment. You've been planning to take my daughter's bedroom and charge me for it. I looked at her lawyer document again. This is dated 2 weeks ago. You've been planning this since before Thanksgiving. Aunt Linda stood abruptly. I think we should go. Dessert is still out, I offered. I've lost my appetite. She grabbed her coat. Come on, Jennifer. Let's get the baby home. Jennifer gathered her daughter and the diaper bag, her movements jerky with anger. At the door she turned back. This isn't over. Your lease ends February 28th, I said. You'll receive renewal terms by January 15th as legally required. 60 days notice. I meant about the room. That was over before it started. My children's housing isn't negotiable. After they left, David remained at the table. You really bought the building? Mortgage documents are in my office if you want to see them. And you're really raising everyone's rent? To market rate, yes. The building needs significant work. New roof next spring, updated electrical facade repairs. That requires income. He was quiet for a moment. I make comments sometimes. About your job, your situation. I didn't realize that I was saving every extra dollar for 3 years. Working weekend bookkeeping clients. Driving a 12-year-old car while you bought new. Yeah. People see what they expect to see. Mom hadn't moved from her chair. You let us believe you were struggling. I was struggling. Struggling to save enough for a down payment while raising 2 kids alone and managing a building's worth of financial records. I sat back down across from her. You assumed struggle meant failure. Jennifer is going to be very upset about this rent increase. Jennifer tried to legally compel me to give her my daughter's bedroom and pay her for the privilege. I think she'll survive adjusting to market rate rent. She's your sister. Which is why I'll give her the same phase-in option I'm giving everyone else. A 2-year gradual increase instead of an immediate jump to market rate. That's family consideration. And if she can't afford it? Then she makes the same decisions any tenant makes. Smaller apartment, different neighborhood, roommate, second job. Adult choices. Mom stood slowly. You've changed. I bought a building and set boundaries. That's not change, that's growth. After everyone left, I found Emma and Lucas in the living room, pretending to watch television but clearly listening to every word. Is Aunt Jennifer mad? Emma asked. Aunt Jennifer is surprised. There's a difference. Are we keeping our rooms? Lucas wanted to know. Yes, boys. Those are your spaces. Emma climbed into my lap despite being almost too big for it. You were really quiet when she was being mean. Sometimes being quiet is powerful. I knew something she didn't. That you own the building? That her plan couldn't work no matter how loud she got about it. Lucas considered this. So you didn't need to yell because you had the real power? Something like that. The next morning my phone started ringing early, Jennifer, then Mom, then Aunt Linda. I let them go to voicemail while I made breakfast for the kids. By noon, Jennifer had sent 4 text messages ranging from angry to pleading. The last one read, "Can we please talk about this reasonably?" I replied, "Lease renewal terms will arrive by January 15th as required by law. All other building matters go through the management company." You're the management company. Yes. And I keep business and family separate. Your rent is a business matter. 3 days later, a formal letter arrived from Jennifer's lawyer requesting lease modification discussions. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, who sent a polite response explaining that single-room lease transfers within multi-room units weren't legally viable and that all lease renewals would follow standard procedures. Christmas was awkward. Jennifer barely spoke to me. Mom kept making comments about family helping family, until I reminded her that she'd applauded when Jennifer tried to take Emma's room. That was different, Mom protested. How? She couldn't answer. On February 1st I sent out renewal letters. Jennifer's new rate, $2,100 monthly phased, $150 the first year, $200 the second. Below market but sustainable. She called immediately. I can't afford this. You can't afford market rate of $2,300. This is a family discount. Some discount. $500 more over 2 years. You were willing to charge me $400 for a single bedroom. This is a 3-bedroom apartment. Silence. The building needs maintenance, Jennifer. Real maintenance. The roof leaks. The electrical is outdated. The facade needs work. I can give you fair family rates, but I can't lose money to subsidize your housing. What if I can't pay? Then we discuss options. Smaller unit when one opens. Payment plans. But those are business discussions, not Thanksgiving dinner topics. She hung up without answering. 2 weeks later she signed the renewal. So did David, Aunt Linda and every other tenant. Some grumbled. None left. The building improvements started in March. New roof installation took 3 weeks. Tenants complained about the noise until they stopped hearing drips during rainstorms. The electrical upgrades came next, done in phases to minimize disruption. Jennifer's unit was last, which she protested, until I pointed out that it meant she'd have the longest period without construction interruption. By summer the building looked different. Fresh paint on the facade. Updated hallway lighting. Repairs that had been deferred for years finally addressed. Property value increased. So did tenant satisfaction even with the higher rents. Emma's room stayed exactly as it was, painted pale yellow with stars on the ceiling. Lucas kept his blue space-themed walls. And I kept the building running, one maintenance issue and one fair lease at a time. Jennifer still lived upstairs with her growing daughter. We were cordial at family events, professional about building matters. She never mentioned the housing contract again. The document stayed in my desk drawer anyway. A reminder that sometimes the quietest person in the room holds all the deeds.